Alrighty, we got a match here for the E5 division of the league between Squire Zucco and NB Schluter. Looks like Squire Zucco's got a pretty commanding lead at the moment in standings prior to this match, so I'm assuming Schluter's probably looking to pick up some ground. Let's take a look at the first game. So we've got a kingdom with no plus action in it anywhere, so that's a pretty major limitation. So we're definitely not building a big engine because there's no way to play multiple action cards. We do have Tunnel, so it's worth checking whether this is a good way to activate Tunnel's effect. Sometimes you can get a nice little, maybe 2-card combo with a card like Dungeon and Tunnel, where you discard Tunnels to get a bunch of golds real fast. That can be a decent money strategy. I actually am not seeing any way at all to discard Tunnel, so maybe Tunnel's not the strategy here. What else have we got? Well, we've got okay trashing with Develop. We've got Marauder, which can be blocked by Watchtower. Marauder is an attack that will junk your opponent, so kind of like the antithesis of trashing. It can also be blocked by Moat. We've got Terminal Draw with Swashbuckler or Moat or Black Cat. This is definitely going to be very money-ish. I'm not exactly sure what. Do you go into the Marauder line? Probably. Squire's not good enough trashing to make the junking from Marauder irrelevant. I think maybe, I don't know, Marauder Develop or Marauder Silver or Develop Silver could all be viable openings. Let's see what they did. So NB Schluter goes for Watchtower Marauder. So they seem super committed to the Marauder thing. They both got a Marauder, and I think they got a Watchtower probably anticipating that their opponent might get a Marauder, because one of the biggest benefits of Watchtower here is that it can trash the Marauder attack. It also has other benefits, like you can top deck your spoils or top deck whatever else you buy. Or it can just function as like kind of minor draw. Playing a Watchtower from a 5-card hand does draw you 2 cards. So Watchtower does have some sort of like general purpose utility. But I don't think I would open Watchtower unless I'd already seen my opponent commit to Marauder, because I think one of its best values is a defense against the attack, which, as it turns out, Squire Zucco did not go for. They went for Swashbuckler and Moat. Swashbuckler definitely makes sense on 5. It's a decent draw card. The Moat, yeah, Moat makes sense too, because they'd already seen their opponent had taken a Marauder. So if the Moat blocks even like a single ruin, it's kind of already paid for itself, because the big drawback of Moat is having an extra stop card in your deck, but if you had an extra ruin, you'd kind of be having that anyway. So I think Squire Moat seems to make a good deal of sense. Squire Zucco then gets a Marauder. That makes sense. Develop. All this seems fine so far. There's not like a whole lot to do here. This kingdom's pretty darn weak, so I don't think there's a big engine to be built or anything. We're just going to see some variation of big money. I like the gold buy. That's probably a little bit too early for Province, even though they had 8. I wonder what they're expecting to draw when they played their pawn as card action. It doesn't seem as though they had any other actions in their deck that they particularly wanted to play. Probably something like card buy or coin buy would have been a better choice for the pawn play. I don't think we'll see Swashbuckler activation here, but certainly, like, if you could get the treasure chest, this would be a very good kingdom for it, because in a simple big money game, getting gold is good. But having to play your Swashbuckler 4 times minimum, with, you also have to have cards in the discard, which is far from guaranteed. It's going to be hard to activate, and by the time you do activate, it's probably going to be close to the end game, so I don't think that trying to get the treasure chest is something important enough to like play around or anything. So they're tied 1-1 on provinces, and building there makes sense. NB Schluter will be able to play their Swashbuckler and get a coffer here. Squire Zucco just did the same. Pretty soon it'll probably be time to stop building. Probably the next shuffle for both of them, I would think. Both of them's about to trigger a shuffle within like a turn. And so I would think from here on out you'll probably want to stop building and start greening. I kind of like the addition of Black Cats. Black Cat can be pretty good in the end game. You know your opponent has to green, and you're not going to be drawing a whole lot of cards. So a large majority of the cards you will see will be cards that you're seeing in your opening hand. So whenever Black Cat does come up, it's probably going to be in your opening hand. Like, you'll draw a few cards with like Swashbuckler or Moat. So there's like some chance you draw the Black Cat's dead, but very likely you'll have Black Cat in hand. And at this point in the game, your opponent probably does have to be buying victory cards pretty reliably. So the Black Cats, I think, are a pretty strong addition. What does Squire's Echo do here? Like, a Duchy would not be a bad buy in the abstract, but as it turns out, MB Schluter does have a bunch of black cats in their deck, so I think that might push you towards avoiding greening. Which, again, even if your opponent doesn't green, that can still be a value in and of itself from the black cats. If your black cats force your opponent to wait longer to green, then in a big money game, that's kind of a victory in its own right, even if you don't get to curse them. All right, MB Schluter gets off 2 curses here. Oh, no, they don't. They get off 2 black cat plays, but they're both blocked with moat. That doesn't mean the black cats were wasted, though, because the other benefit of activating black cat when your opponent buys a victory card, beyond the cursing effect, is that you get to play the black cat non-terminally. You don't have to spend an action on that. So the black cat, which is normally like a terminal +2 cards, which is pretty weak, becomes functionally like a little laboratory. So even though Squire's Echo blocked the main effect of the black cat, the cursing, MB Schluter still got 2 little lab activations, which is definitely not nothing. Now you're looking to score any way you can. Squire's Echo probably does need to take a victory card here, even knowing it's likely to activate Schluter's cats. Obviously, they can't know for certain whether Schluter has the cats in hand. But there's only 2 provinces left, and at this point, Squire's Echo is at the top of a shuffle. Whatever card they buy here... Oh, Seize the Day is not a bad buy either. Whatever card they buy here is going to very likely never see the light of day, because this game is likely to end before they ever get back around. Oof. Well, at least this turn, Squire's Echo could buy a victory card without having to worry about the black cats, because they'll have a moat in hand. So what does Schluter do? This is not the prettiest hand, for sure. I think just buying Duchy there makes sense. Has Schluter seized the day yet? Looks like no. So that could be a minor advantage. They'll be Duchy dancing for a bit, and that Duchy dance is kind of unlikely to end because there's also Tunnels and Silk Roads, which will both be kind of discount Duchies pretty soon. If I'm Squire's Echo, I think I would just want a province the next chance I get. I think I take the province even if I'm behind in points, because I think the longer this little Duchy dance thing goes, the more it favors Schluter. They're going to get those black cat curses in. That's going to hurt a lot. And so I don't want to play this protracted, like, Duchies, then Tunnels, and Silk Roads game with the person with black cats. But if I'm Squire's Echo, I also know I have 4 coffers banked up. So if I buy province once, I'm really likely to be able to province again the next turn by just spinning my coffers, whereas my opponent's deck is not hitting province reliably. So if you province once, there's a very good chance that you'll be the one to province again. And so I think that's probably a better line for Squire's Echo than trying to go down this long endgame. Now, obviously, in most contexts, if you're in this scenario where there's 2 provinces left and you're a little bit behind on points, the correct play is to buy Duchy to regain the points lead. Because if you buy province, they'll buy province, and then you'll lose. But I think here it would behoove Squire's Echo to buy the province and take that risk anyway, because the risk of their opponent being able to snipe the province out from under them is lower than the risk of them just losing in the long game from all the curses with the Duchy and Tunnel stuff. Like MB Schluter, for example, this turn is going to be able to get in some extra coffers, and once Schluter has coffers in as well, all of a sudden the threat that Schluter can just buy the province when Echo buys the penultimate province becomes much more real. I think we bought Seize too early, says NB Schluter. I don't really have a sense of whether that's true or not. Seize the Day, in like a big engine, it can often make sense to save Seize the Day until very late in the game because it gives you tons of pile pressure. You have the ability to threaten to basically take 2 turns at once, which means you can pile things twice as effectively as normal. So like if you're worried about a 3-pile threat, you have to be a lot more worried, perpetually about your opponent 3-piling as long as they're still holding on to Seize the Day. Whereas if they Seize the Day early, that threat goes away. Because if they have the potential to buy Seize the Day and take functionally 2 turns, let's say they had like a deck that could do 9 gains. Well, if they spend one of those gains on Seize the Day instead of a normal gain, they can gain 8 cards that turn, play a second turn, gain 9 more cards the next turn. So they're functionally threatening like 17 gains, and that's really hard to play around. So holding off Seize the Day can be very helpful in Engine Kingdoms for that reason. It's not obvious to me whether or not you really need to hold off Seize the Day until very late in the game in this kingdom, I would imagine you just kind of buy it. Maybe if you hit 4 and you don't have anything better to buy in the late game. So I think Seize the Day, when they did it, could have made sense. Yeah, Squire got it turn 17, Schluter turn 19. I mean, it's possible that saving it was better, but I don't think it's at all obvious that they needed to save Seize the Day until very late. I still feel like Squire Zucco should just go for the province thing. I mean, obviously looking at Schluter's hand, that'd be a risky turn to do it. But I think the longer the game goes, the better NB Schluter has. And in any number of these turns where Squire Zucco could have bought province, as it turns out, Schluter would not have been able to counter by buying a province of their own. But Schluter, I think, is going to catch up if they can eventually get some of those coffers from their own swashbucklers. We are getting low on piles, I guess. Well, no. Duchies are out, and Ruins are at 2, but I guess there's not really a third pile, and very little pile pressure, so 3 piles, unlikely to happen. These Silk Roads worth right now. 2, 3. The Silk Roads will probably be worth at least as much as Duchy by the end of this game. I wouldn't be surprised by that. Oh, this is going to be an awkward turn for Zucco if they choose to buy a Victory card. Hey, they buy Black Cat instead. that was certainly quite fortunate, because it would not have been unreasonable in the abstract for Squire Zucco to buy a tunnel in that position, or even a Silk Road. Probably a tunnel over the Silk Road because it costs less. But, little did they know their opponent had 3 Black Cats in store. So they got quite fortunate that they bought a Black Cat there instead. I still feel like if I'm Zucco, I'm buying province whenever I can buy province, because you're more likely to be able to get that the last province your opponent is with coffers banked up. I don't want to give my opponent a chance to bank up the coffers first. Like, I think it's been a while since NB Schluter hit 8, whereas Zucco is hitting provinces kind of consistently. Now we're getting awkwardly into pile-out territory, and that seems more worrisome to me. Now Silk Roads and Ruins could potentially run. And Schluter's getting those Black Cats too. Oh, and Schluter can now buy a province with a points lead. This looks like game. Yeah, I think Zucco had this one. I think Zucco had the stronger deck, and if they had bought province on any number of turns, they would very likely have been able to buy the second province. I think perhaps they overestimated the quality of Schluter's deck in the short term, and underestimated the long-term viability that Schluter had the longer this game went. But I think trying to go down this Duchy road has probably cost Zucco the game. Yeah, because now Zucco, I mean, even if they buy province, they lose. And the longer this game goes, those curses will get given out. It does look kind of bad. I mean, here you just buy Silk Road, I guess. Or maybe buy Tunnel. Tunnel's going to be worth fewer points, I think. Tunnel's worth 2. Silk Road might be worth 2 now, but will probably eventually be worth 3. In any case, though, lowering the Silk Road pile just seems riskier than lowering the Tunnel pile. I think I might take the Tunnel just to avoid the 3 pile. I paused to eat some cake. Schluter is asking how many roads they have. That can easily be resolved with a Control-F search. Looks like it's 3-3. I wouldn't be asking my opponent because that would signify what I'm thinking about. But you can easily tell that just by doing a little search of the log. The Ruin Market, I guess, is in theory kind of nice, because having plus buy could mean, for example, Squire Zekko buys like 2 estates, which is 2 points in their turn and also powers up Silk Roads more effectively, something like that. Or threatens to buy a double tunnel, stuff like that. The problem is, they see it in this hand. They've just... Do they draw dead, or they choose not to play it? I guess they chose to play a Swashbuckler over it, which does make sense. But given that they have like 40 more cards in the deck to go through, they're probably never going to see it again. Alright, so this is game. Squire Zekko did elect to lower the Silk Roads, and now Schluter can just play their pawn for plus buy and buy out both of the ruins. I mean, Black Cat was kind of the winner, but only because I think Zekko didn't appropriately play around it. If you see your opponent going Black Cat, I think then the long, protracted duchy and Silk Road strategy is just not the way to go. I think if Zekko just took the provinces earlier, those Black Cats would have had a lot less effect. Alright, so that's 1-0 for Schluter. They were player 1, though. So maybe Squire Zekko can equalize in game 2. Whew, another weak-looking kingdom. So we've got 2 sources of plus action. There's Hideout, which is a village, but it requires you to trash a card. So that can be good in the early game, certainly, because it can thin you very effectively. But in the late game, it can be kind of hard to rely on as like a main village or anything because you have to trash a card to defeat it. And then secondly, we have Innovation. Innovation lets you play the first card you gain each turn, which is like a once per turn village effect of sorts. For draw, we've got Moat, we've got Oracle, and again, Innovation kind of like draw because you get to play a card without having to draw it. So we got some weak draw, some weak villages. We got plus buy with Farmer's Market, and we'll eventually have plus buy with Fortune if that gets uncovered from the Gladiator pile underneath the 5 Gladiators. You can also gain stuff with Artificer. But in general, this kingdom is looking pretty weak. One problem you have with weak draw plus weak action is if you put them together, you might not actually net be drawing cards. So for example, from a 5-card hand, if you play a Hideout, you draw a card with Hideout, so you're back to 5 cards, but then you trash a card, so you're down to 4 cards. So you've gained 1 action, but you've lost 1 draw. Hideout's kind of like functionally plus 1 action minus 1 card because of that trashing aspect. And then you take a card like Moat or Oracle that draws you 2 cards but costs an action. By the same token, Moat is like plus 1 card minus 1 action. You spend an action to play it, and then your hand size goes up by 1 because Moat left your hand and replaced itself with 2 cards. So you play cards that are functionally plus 1 card minus 1 action, plus 1 action minus 1 card. You end up just spinning in circles and not actually improving the quality of your deck at all. Or increasing your hand size. So you couldn't really build a draw engine out of like Moat and Hideout or Oracle and Hideout, even though they're both villages and draw cards respectively. Well, draw cards and villages respectively, but point remains. So I don't think there's really an engine to be built here. These are just 2 remarkably weak kingdoms. So what are you doing if you're playing money? It's still probably worth taking Hideout just to get some trashing in. Gladiator might not be bad because it's at minimum a silver and potentially a gold if you can reveal a card that they can't respond with. And you're probably, for the most part, just going to get some hodgepodge of stuff and not really aim to draw your deck. Now, I think the Hideout plus Oracle / Moat thing, you can't use it to build an engine, but it still can kind of make sense. Like, I don't dislike the fact that Schluter has just gained an Oracle, knowing that they already have a Hideout. You know, while Hideout plus Oracle won't net draw you anything, if you're going to get Hideout anyway, for the purposes of trashing, which makes sense, then it can make sense to add an Oracle to kind of neutralize the cost of the Hideout, right? Playing the Hideout means you don't have a surplus action to spend, but your hand size is down to 4 cards. And so if you're using the Hideout for trashing, adding in an Oracle as well and playing Hideout plus Oracle, you know, we said is kind of draw and action neutral, so you're breaking even. But now you've got the trashing effect from Hideout, which is the real benefit of doing that little thing. It's not that it net drew you anything, it's that you're able to get the benefit of Hideout, the trashing effect, without the normal drawback of Hideout reducing your hand size. And so you can get like an Oracle to kind of cancel out the Hideout's effect. Plus Oracle is a little bit better than just plus 2 cards like Moat, because Oracle, you get to look at the top 2 cards of your deck and then you can elect whether to put those 2 cards in your hand or discard them and draw 2 more. So Oracle also has a minor benefit of letting you potentially draw better than average cards, or I guess more precisely, avoid drawing worse than average cards. We have March in this kingdom. Could that be relevant? March, it costs 3, which is pretty expensive. And a buy, which also is kind of expensive for an event. A lot of events are buy neutral. Is there anything in your discard pile that would be worth marching? Marching Artificer is kind of unlikely to be important because you have to spend like 3 coppers on the march. You won't have a lot to discard to Artificer. Marching Gladiator, kind of unimportant in general. I don't think marching is super relevant here. It could maybe be a way to like snipe, like if farmers markets, I'm not sure they'll get bought here, but like if farmers markets get bought, maybe there'll be a point where the farmers market pile is at like a key number, like it's at 4 and you really want the victory points, and so maybe you could like march a farmers market that's in your discard to snipe those points. But I think march is not super likely to be relevant. It has its situational uses, but I don't think this kingdom is one of them. So Schluter's got the flag, it looks like. I double check that. Yeah, Schluter's got the flag, which has been uncontested for a few turns. This is a kingdom where I would not let my opponent just like keep the flag indefinitely, because +1 draw is not insignificant in a kingdom this week. So if I'm Zecco, I'm probably looking to take that flag back at some point soon by gaining a flag bearer. I do like the Artificer though. Artificer, it's basically like a peddler on its own. It's like an entirely neutral cantrip, but it gives you 1 extra coin. So you're getting +1 coin and no drawback, which is not bad. But also, if you happen to draw Artificer, for example, in an exceptionally weak hand, and a nice thing Artificer can do is you can discard all 5 cards on that hand to gain another 5-cost card like Artificer. So like theoretically, if you got 1 Artificer, you could pile out all 10 Artificers over the next 9 turns by just play the first Artificer, discard 5 cards, top deck the next Artificer next turn, play that Artificer, discard 5 to gain Artificers, etc. And that's not something you want. You really want to do that. Like, it is not the case that in general a good like monolithic strategy just gain 1 Artificer and then take all the rest of the Artificers. But it is a thing that you can do in context where like you drew an Artificer and otherwise weak hand. You can make the best out of it by discarding all the bad cards and just getting yourself another decent 5-cost card. So like it's not a super power card or anything, but I think it's definitely a card worth getting. Who has the 2 hideouts? Schluter has 2 hideouts. I feel like 2 is a pretty good number. Hideout, it trashes, but it's not the fastest trash. It only trashes 1 at a time. So if you want to get clean, then you're probably going to want 2 hideouts. Hideout also has this kind of drawback of it takes 2 plays to trash the estate. Because the first time you trash an estate, it just basically turns the estate into a curse. And then the second time you play hideout, it truly trashes because it can trash that curse. And so if you want to trash the 10 starting cards from your hand, you have to play hideout 13 times, which can be a bit of a tall order. And so I think you probably would need 2 hideouts to get fully trashed here. Maybe even 3. If I was trying to get fully trashed, I'd probably take 3. But, given that it's a kind of weak money kingdom, you don't necessarily need to get, like, squeaky clean. You still want to get a lot of the junk out of your deck, but, like, foregoing payload to add enough cards to trash, like, those last few coppers might not be super significant. But I feel like 2 is a pretty good number for hideouts. Another pause for cake. Both my mother and my cousin were born on the same day, and so we recently celebrated both their birthdays, and now I have a lot of extra cake to make my way through. Anyways, back to this game. Who's got the lead? Schluter still has that flag. Squire Zecco just seems unconcerned with letting them draw 6 cards per turn forever. I feel like that's bad. Innovation, I think, is probably worth getting here. They both got it. You'll be getting some number of action cards. Getting to play them the same turn you get them can have value. Now, some of these cards will be kind of hard to make use of with innovation. For example, Gladiator, Flag Bearer, whatever. If you play that after buying it, you'll get 2 coins or potentially 3 coins of Gladiator, but you won't have any plus buy left, and so the coins will be useless. But you could, for example, buy a farmer's market, innovate it, and then you get the plus buy back and buy a second thing. And so, innovation plus farmer's market might be a better combination than innovation plus Gladiator or something. Very technical board. Is it? Maybe it is. I'm not exactly sure what they mean by that. But there's a lot of cards here that, in the abstract, I think can lead to interesting technical interactions, like Artificer and Oracle and stuff. In the right kingdom can be very. They can lead to like very clever plays. But I don't think there's the really necessary enablers to do like really cool stuff with Artificer or Oracle here. I think it's basically just playing, kind of like their decks look like. You're playing some combination of actions in some order. You're not really going to draw your whole deck or anything. And we're never really going to see a big engine kickoff. All right, Zucco finally took the flag, and then Schluter took it right back. Often it's better to take the flag second rather than first, because if you follow that little dance of take flag back to its natural endpoint, the person who took it second will eventually win that, because there's 10 flags to go around, so you take the first one, you're not taking the last one. But NB Schluter had that flag, the very first flag they got, for long enough that it was probably worthwhile. The Guardian seems weird to me. I don't think any of the attacks here are particularly worth blocking. There's 2 attacks. Or there's 3 attacks. There's Fortune Teller, Oracle, and Noble Brigand. None of them are very strong. I mean, especially Noble Brigand. But even the Oracle and Fortune Teller attacks aren't super important. I guess maybe if you had 2, buying Guardian could be better than nothing. But it's basically kind of like a glorified copper in your deck on turns where it's not blocking a significant attack. Why didn't Squire Zucco trash that flag? You can retake the Flag Bearer, both by gaining Flag Bearer, but also by trashing it. And so they could have there chosen to play their hideout and trash their Flag Bearer rather than playing the Flag Bearer. And that just seems better to me. I feel like Squire Zucco does not value the flag very highly, but +1 card is, kind of significant. There's no real way to increase your hand size in this kingdom, not reliably at least. And so playing with a 6-card hand versus a 5-card hand is a pretty decent difference. I would like to have the flag here, I think. So now what does Schluter do? They really look to be trying to build an engine. They're getting a lot of action cards. More than they can play. I don't think this engine goes anywhere. Like, no matter how many of these oracles you play, they still have 5-card hand at the end of all this. Lots of artificers. I feel like this is just bigger than you really want to build. I don't think... Like, they're adding a lot of action cards, but these action cards are really doing a whole lot of nothing. Like, this hideout oracle interaction. Like, we see, for example, here, they played a hideout and an oracle. A hideout and an oracle. They still had a 5-card hand. They've now played 2 hideouts and 2 oracles. They're still going to have a 5-card hand at the end of all that. And so this draw engine isn't really a draw engine. They're really just spinning in circles. And again, the benefit of that is you are getting to trash a card each time you do the hideout oracle interaction. But at some point, you're going to run out of stuff to trash, and then having a million of those is going to be more of an impediment than anything. They just have so many action cards in their deck, and you need to play a hideout to support each one of them. What is Zucco getting here? I don't know exactly what you take. Have they used their innovation yet? I think not. Another Oracle. I'm not sold on this. Alright, Zucco can now trash the flag bearer to take the flag back. Alright, good, they do it this time. They seemed unconcerned with the flag last time, but now they're, I think, appropriately trashing the flag. Fortune is going to get revealed soon, and I think it's probably worth gaining Fortune before taking any provinces. So as Schluter, I think ideally I'd be looking to do that this turn. Trash that last Gladiator with my Gladiator, and then reveal the Fortune and buy the Fortune. I'm not sure how likely the deck is to do that, but it definitely seems like a possibility, especially from the starting hand. That probably starts with playing the Hideout and trashing one of those Oracles. What does Zucco get? Maybe just a gold here? The last Gladiator. That seems real weird to me. Why do you want... So first off, you're giving your opponent the first crack at the Fortune. Which, I mean, they likely would have had that anyway, because there's a decent chance they could reveal like a card you couldn't block with their Gladiator. But this makes it guaranteed. But also, why do you even want Gladiators in your deck to begin with? It's a terminal action card. And you don't really have the ability to support a bunch of terminal actions. A gold just seems kind of strictly better than Gladiator. That buy really confused me. I don't understand why Zucco wanted a Gladiator. And now Schluter will be the first one to get Fortune. And with a Gladiator in play, so they'll get a gold off of it as well. Because if you buy a Fortune with a Gladiator in play, you gain a gold. So I'm going to say Schluter is now in the lead. I don't think it's like one or anything. Certainly, there's room for Squire Zucco to come back here. But I would say Schluter is in the driver's seat. So Zucco is reaching the end of their deck pretty soon. They're going to run out of things to trash. So Zucco, how do you hit 8? They have... Okay, so they have 8 if their Gladiator can reveal a card that their opponent can't block. They might have another coin down there. I'm not sure what the last 2 cards are in Zucco's deck, but it's possible they have 8 regardless. But they've got 7 in hand from the 2 coins they've already got, 2 more from Artificer, 1 from Copper, 2 from Gladiator, and then that's potentially 8 if their Gladiator reveals a good card. And maybe if one of those last 2 cards is a Copper or an Artificer or something, they'll have 8 anyway. Alright, yeah, that'll do it. They've got 8 in hand for sure now. I assume what they're currently thinking of is whether or not to discard to gain a card and innovate it immediately. You could theoretically do that. Are there any more action cards you really want to add? Probably not. I think this is fine. Play the Gladiator, reveal the Fortune Teller, then play the Fortune Teller, and you're good. Now, your opponent has Oracles and Coppers in their deck, so you don't want to reveal the Oracle or the Copper because they could potentially be blocked. And as it turns out, we can see Schluter's hand, and in fact, they do have both of those in hand. So I would want to reveal the Fortune Teller. It seems pretty obvious. There's only one Fortune Teller gone. It's yours, so you know they can't block it. So that seems pretty clear. Huh. Why would they want to... I don't like this play order at all. Why do you want to gain another Guardian? Like they basically just topped a copper. Like, Guardian blocks attacks, but all the attacks here kind of suck. So the attack blocking feature of Guardian is not particularly important. But you basically just put a copper on top of your deck, because Guardian is like a copper the turn after you play it. I would much rather hit like 10 or 11 doing the Gladiator Fortune Teller thing, and then you could already get started paying off the fortune debt. That would also mean you don't have a copper in your hand. Or in your deck, I guess. Yeah, at some point, like, the Oracle hideout thing is fine in the short term because it gets a lot of your stuff trashed kind of fast. But I think I'd be looking to more pivot out of the Oracle hideout quasi-engine thing pretty soon, because it only works as long as you can feed it tons of trash, and I don't particularly want to be doing that. That was a risky hideout play, but it paid off. They drew a copper. Darn. Was that the best Gladiator reveal? So their opponent definitely has a fortune. I think they also have 1 gold. Is there a way they could have known? No. Squire Zecco just reshuffled the deck. So I don't think there's any way for MB Schluter to know whether the fortune was more likely than the gold. Both of them are... The opponent has 1 copy of both, and there's no way of knowing which one was on top, so it's just kind of a bad guess. Buying a farmer's market, I guess, is fine. It's plus buy, and you'll have a lot of money. Wait. What just happened? Have they already innovated something that turn? Oh, they had. Never mind, I take that back. Buying a farmer's market does not seem very fine. Or at least, this combination of buys doesn't make much sense to me. The farmer's market plus the hideout. I thought the idea was they hadn't yet used innovation, so farmer's market was basically like a free buy. Because if you buy farmer's market, you can immediately play it with innovation and get your plus buy back, and then still buy 2 things. But if they'd already used their innovation for that turn to gain yet another oracle, then that farmer's market's kind of expensive now, as is the hideout. I think I'd probably just start looking at green here. Once you get 1 fortune, that's enough. I would probably buy province for sure, and then maybe you could buy province plus farmer's market. That could work. But I don't think... farmer's market plus hideout made a whole lot of sense. Looks like they're still trying to build an engine, and there's not really an engine to be built here. I wonder if farmer's market plus March plus province makes sense. So that costs you 13, right? Because farmer's market costs 3, March costs 3, but the March will give you a buy and a coin back from playing the farmer's market, and then you can still afford province. So if I was going to buy farmer's market plus province anyway, I would consider ordering it as farmer's market plus March plus province. And then that still gets you the same number of cards in your deck, but the difference there is you'll have gotten to play farmer's market once, and so you'll be powering it up immediately for your next turn. And if you know for sure that you have a farmer's market in your deck, and your opponent doesn't yet, then improving the power of the farmer's market seems to benefit you relative to them. Because they either have to go out of the way to get a farmer's market to contest that, or you just get the benefit sooner. So I think if I were in that situation, I would want to... Actually, even if you're not buying province, even with this, they could have done farmer's market, March, hideout, and still been able to afford all of this. And so if I'm buying a farmer's market anyway, you might as well march it to power it up for next turn. So now Zucco's got 12 to spend. This could be farmer's market province. Could just be... No, for Zecco, probably flag bearer province seems better. They really need to contest that flag. They keep letting their opponent draw 6 cards per turn. I admire the spirit of these decks. Like, they're trying to build an engine, they're trying to draw their deck every turn, but they're really running on fumes here. They're not increasing their hand size with all these little hideout Oracle interactions, and they're trashing a card every time they do it. So, pretty soon they're going to be running out of stuff to trash. And, like, you could play an Artificer, elect to use this effect, still discard nothing and gain a copper. And with Artificer, you can do this a few different ways. Like, you could elect not to gain a card in the first place. You just say, I don't want to use this effect. You could discard cards and gain a card. But a third option that exists that I think might not be obvious just from the text is you can choose to gain a card costing exactly 1 per card you discarded, and then still discard no cards, which is a way of gaining a 0-cost card. So, for example, if you have a Artificer, Hideout, and Oracle in your hand, then you could play the Artificer, discard nothing, top deck a copper, and then play the Hideout, trash the copper, play the Oracle, draw 1. And if you're stuck in a situation where you've got Artificers, Hideouts, and Oracles in your deck, like, that's probably better than not doing it. Like, if you want to have to draw, if you have to draw one anyway, then that's gonna be the best way to feed those Hideouts. I'm like, that's not a thing I want my deck to do, because the Artificer to top deck a copper plus play Hideout plus play Oracle is not net drawing you anything. The card that it seems like you're drawing is the copper you just added to your deck to trash. So you're not really improving your deck at all, or your hand at all, by drawing with Hideout and Oracle. Yeah, Squires, again, MB Schluter had a choice of what to reveal between Farmer's Market, Gold, and Fortune. I believe all three of those were equally likely, because Zucco has exactly one of each of those three in their deck, and they had just reshuffled their deck. So again, it's just an entirely equivalent choice between those three. All of them are equally likely to be in Zucco's hand, and both times Schluter has revealed the one of them that is in Zucco's hand. As it turns out, it literally does not matter, because 3 buys plus 24 coins allows you to afford everything you conceivably want to buy, which I would think would be 3 provinces, but it's apparently at least going to be 1 farmer's market. It's going to be 2 farmer's markets? Okay, this isn't bad. Wait a second. Why did they... Now I'm confused. I thought they was going to continually march those to get... Now I'm very confused what their buy was. I think 3 provinces was seemed like the easiest answer. Just take the big points lead. I don't understand how they plan to play a million farmers markets. Okay, not to mention now their opponent's going to steal the 4 victory points, which is at this point in the game is probably pretty valuable. I'm not really following what Schluter was thinking with that buy. So you could do the little thing I was discussing here right now, which is top deck a copper for the hideout. I think I'd rather just trash the Guardian or the Fortune Teller, or even maybe the Gladiator. Probably Guardian or Fortune Teller with the hideout, because you're over terminaled, and you're probably looking to get rid of some of those terminals because you're not going to be able to play them all. So rather than top deck a copper for the hideout to trash, I'd rather just trash one of those cards in my hand because I don't particularly value them anymore. I think I'd say goodbye to the Fortune Teller, because the Guardian is at least non-terminal. So like it is basically a copper, but a copper is better than an action card you can't play right now. They're gaining a moat. Okay. I don't know why they wanted more action cards, but Now surely you trash the fortune, right? Not the fortune, not the fortune, the fortune teller. Trashing the fortune would be a huge mistake. Trashing the mode's fine too, I guess. So definitely the first buy Zucko makes should be to march that farmer's market. Because that's 4 victory points for 3 coins. And it doesn't even cost you a buy, because the farmer's market will give you your buy back. I assume they'll do that. March farmer's market, then buy 2 provinces. Seems good to me. Wow, what? Why'd you buy another farmer's market? Okay, they're undoing that. I like that choice. I think maybe they forgot they'd already used innovation, and they thought that buying that farmer's market would activate innovation, and they could get the points that way. That's obviously not going to work because they innovated the mode already. But they do have a farmer's market in their discard that they will be able to march for the same effect. Okay, good, they did that. Yeah, so they took 2 provinces and marched the farmer's market. Province, march, province. I think that makes sense. That seemed like the best set of buys there. Now Schluter just has an absolutely unwieldy number of terminal actions in their deck. I guess you could just leave all the farmers markets in your discard and try to mark them all. Maybe that's a thing you can do. They do have a ton of farmers markets down there. Let's see. So they just discarded 2 with this Artificer. And they discarded 3 with their... How is that? Oh, I think they've discarded the same farmers markets twice now. I was going to say they can't have 5 farmers markets in their deck, because... You know Zucko has some. Awkward starting hand for Schluter. A million actions and no villages. But I think that was just kind of the way these decks were destined to go. They kept adding new actions to innovate, and then they weren't really trashing them. And so it's kind of the price to pay for having a ton of actions in a deck that can't really play a ton of actions. I still feel like the flag should have given Schluter a lead, a pretty big lead. Like, Schluter's been drawing 6 cards to Zucko's 5 for a majority of the game, which is not an insignificant benefit. But I think the point where Schluter was in the lead was when they got the fortune first. They could have started greening immediately, and they tried to do a bunch of this like fancy farmers market stuff instead of actually scoring. And I think now they're going to fall behind because of it. Like, your deck, in order to even continue to have 5 cards in hand, you have to play a hideout to play an oracle just to spin through your deck to do nothing. And so there's no way you're playing a bunch of farmers markets at the end of that, because that requires playing even more hideouts to support each farmers market play. And so I'm not really seeing how that deck ever plans to play 3 farmers markets, or however many they have. Maybe your best chance is trying to discard them with Artificer into your discard and then march them all. But that doesn't seem like something worth playing towards. What do you do as Zucko? I think single province seems safe here. I don't think your opponent is likely to triple. I mean, their deck theoretically can. We saw that earlier Schluter hit triple and then just elected not to buy provinces for some reason. But they then added a bunch of provinces and farmers markets to their deck. So it's unlikely to happen a second time. And, I mean, if they can triple, you probably lost anyway. So I think as Zucco, I think you could just safely take a single province here. And then do you want to top deck anything for next turn? Probably not. I don't see any cards here that I particularly want on the top of my deck. Maybe you could just top deck a silver. Like at this point, a silver's not bad. Discard Gladiator, Moat, Province, top deck a silver, play Fortune Teller to get the attack in, and then buy Province. I don't understand why they played the Gladiator. That doesn't make any sense to me. So you had 6 coins already. You only needed 2 coins. Gladiator and Fortune Teller both give you 2 coins. Gladiator gives you the risk of having 3 coins, which helps you none at all, because there's nothing that costs 9 here. You're not buying a second Fortune. And Fortune Teller reliably gives you 8, and also gets in an attack. As it turns out, the opponent does have a moat in hand. Maybe they knew that already? That's possible. Okay, so they knew their opponent had a moat because they'd already revealed an Oracle. So I guess Gladiator and Oracle are basically entirely equivalent cards there. So it didn't really matter which one they played. Fortune Teller still seems like the ideal choice because it saves me a click. So Schluter decided to buy an Artificer and then gain a second Artificer. That seems all right. As Zucco now, you might consider discarding Province and 2 Guardians for something of value. Is top decking a silver good? Maybe. Trash the Fortune Teller? Trash the Moat? Either of those seems fine. They trash the Moat. Oh, that Oracle attack actually kind of hurt. They got to pitch 2 of Schluter's Artificers. I mean, it doesn't hurt that bad, because Schluter's about to trigger a shuffle, so they're going to see the Artificers pretty soon anyway. But definitely better than not doing it. So now, Zucco is going to have a whole lot of money and 2 buys, which I assume just means you double Province here. You could even maybe... Would taking an estate here matter? Okay, they want to draw on. Maybe they're trying to find... Do they have a farmer's market down there? Maybe they want... Nope, they... Not really sure why they did that. In any case, this seems like a pretty clear double Province. Yep. I'd say Zucco seems to have it in the bag. Schluter needs to score 16 points here. That's 2 provinces and 2 duchies, or 2 provinces, duchy, and 2 estates. Both of which seem very hard to do given the quality of their decks right now. Like, 2 provinces is doable. In fact, they will likely have a hand here that can double province. I wouldn't be surprised if they can. But also getting 2 duchies off of that is a taller order. I think this will be the second game in a row where one person had a kind of commanding lead in the mid game and then misplayed the in game a bit, and that cost them the game. The first game, it was Zucco deciding not to take the provinces and play some long in game with the opponent who had all the black cats. This game, it's Schluter being first to Fortune and then pass up on a triple province turn to buy triple Farmer's Market, despite never really playing any of them. That seemed like a pretty clear throw to me. Oh, then again, Zucco has quite the dud hand here. They can still likely hit 8, so play the Gladiator and use Reveal Fortune Teller. Okay, now Zucco's got this. Gladiator, Reveal Fortune Teller, play Fortune. You can buy Province, and that keeps the game well out of Schluter's reach, I think. Yeah, they find the right play there. Yeah, so now Schluter is still, was that 16 points behind? Now, to do 16 points, they have to take the province and 4 duchies, which is just way beyond their grasp. Five, 7. This is a win. Zucco can top deck a copper to guarantee they hit 8. I mean, they'll probably hit 8 anyway, even if they don't. But you can guarantee with 100% certainty by top decking a copper. You play the Artificer. You choose to discard. Then you choose to discard nothing. You can gain a 0-cost card. Put a copper on top, and then you draw with Hideout. As it turns out, they drew their Fortune Teller anyway, so they hit 8 anyway. I mean, like, even if they couldn't have hit Province, they would have just won next turn anyway. They had enough of a points lead that Schluter was not coming back. Getting a little laggy. Let's see if refreshing helps that at all. Uh-oh, I've been kicked from the game. Let me rejoin. Alright, game number 3. How did Possession get in here? Oh me, oh my. So neither of them has banned... Wait. Yeah, I guess neither of them banned Possession. Interesting. I don't see a whole lot of Possession games because I have it banned. Pretty much everyone has it banned. It's just like a nightmare of a card. It looks like they're seriously considering whether or not they even want to play this one. Yeah, agree with Gimme. Possession sucks. Oh well, they're doing it.
I literally just played a game with it. I was like, God, this is awful.
It's a nightmare in a lot of ways.
So long, and it was just terrible. You just like watch your cards and you're like frowny face.
Yeah, so for one thing, Possession, it leads to really perverse strategies, because if most of your games are coming off of your opponent's turn, you have an incentive to get Possession and then immediately just like destroy the quality of your own deck, so your opponent can't make use of your deck. And then the other big problem with Possession is just, it's a nightmare of rules interactions. How do you figure out how like cards work when your opponent's the one playing them? I feel like all the most complicated rules questions revolve around like how Possession interacts with all sorts of random cards, and I don't know the answer to that because I avoid playing with it, so I've never had to deal with it. So what do we actually do here? We can trash with Sacrifice. You can draw with Swashbuckler or Cursed Village. There's actions with Royal Carriage, Conclave, Cursed Village, Crossroads. Oh, Courtiers also draw, I didn't mention. You got plus buy with Market Square or Traveling Fair. So you can definitely build really big here. The problem is going to be Possession. So I guess you kind of sort of build an engine, get some possessions, and then call Royal Carriage in your possessions to play like a million possession turns in a row while trying to then undo the quality of your own deck. I don't feel particularly qualified to commentate this game because I literally have not played a Possession game in well over a year. Yeah, this is going to be a doozy. So, Swashbuckler, Crossroads, and Sacrifice Market Square both seem like totally fine openings to me. I think maybe Sacrifice Silver, maybe a little bit better, because it helps you hit 5 more reliably early. You can get like a Cursed Village, and then draw a bit faster. But Market Square is not bad. Okay, Schluter and Zaka both get Royal Carriages. I think Royal Carriage is not bad. I think I would take a Cursed Village as my first 5 just for the extra draw. But Royal Carriage I think is a plausible alternative. Yeah, I think you really want to be calling it on your Sacrifice to get thin fast. And you're eventually going to want Royal Carriages, I think, because you can call Royal Carriage on possession. And again, for some reason, this monstrosity of a card, unlike all the other things that let you take extra turns like Outpost or Mission or Seize the Day, which are all limited to like do this once per turn, or in the case of Seize the Day, like once per game. Possession does not have any limit like that. So you can call Royal Carriage to play your possession a bunch of times, and then just take a bunch of extra turns of your opponent's turn. So Royal Carriage Possession is just going to be like an absolute... this is going to be painful. Now, is there anything you can do here that's going to destroy your opponent's deck quality? Yes. So as I was contemplating, and I think Kanto has actually suggested one way you can really fiddle with your opponent's deck is if they've put Royal Carriages on the mat with the intention to call it for their possessions next turn, you can, while you're possessing them, call all the Royal Carriages just to take all the Royal Carriages back off the mat so they have to play them again. Unless you're asking whether they can take them from a person named Matt, based on the spelling, in which case, I don't know. Does Matt have Royal Carriages? Yeah, so this is another of those problems with possession. It's like it's kind of sort of written to try to mitigate the ability of you to like hurt your opponent while playing possession. Like it's literally not even labeled an attack card. It's meant to just be like get benefit from your opponent's deck. But there's a lot of ways cards interact with possession that kind of get around those restrictions. Like it does prevent you from trashing stuff. But for example, it doesn't prevent you from exiling cards of your opponents or using like Way of the Horse to just return all of your opponent's cards back to the piles. And yeah, so like literally, like Possession plus Way of the Horse, for example, is a new interaction that's cropped up from Menagerie, which is like one of the more particularly obvious examples of how possession is real nasty. Is you play possession and then you while on your opponent's turn you just play all of their cards as Way of the Horse, send them all back to the pile. And then they don't have any cards left in their deck. Or no action cards, at least. They'll still like victory cards. And so, yeah. And actually, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure Possession didn't even mention debt at the beginning. I want to say that was added later on. Like, they had to edit Possession to add in this, like, any cards or debt portion. Because I'm pretty sure with the original version of Possession, you could just, like, put your opponent in insurmountable amounts of debt on the Possession turns. But yeah. Apparently, these two are just masochists and want to go through with this, but we'll see how this plays out. Neither of us has a potion yet. Maybe it's a little early for that. I think you can start considering adding a potion for possession pretty soon. Yeah, like now would not be a bad turn for Squires Echo to add a potion, I think. I'm not quite really drawing. I could also see adding like a Cursed Village first or another Swashbuckler or something. But Potion there seems like a pretty reasonable buy. That's another good point from Countess. You can use Scouting Party just to make your opponent's next hand terrible. Now, I guess if you're playing multiple possessions, you can use Scouting Party to set up your own next turn with their deck on all the non-final possession turns. And in the last turn, you can Scouting Party to just give them a handful of crap. Yeah. The first one of Possession of this kingdom is going to have quite a bit of an advantage. You get to play like Possession plus Royal Carriage. Your opponent's going to be in a world of hurt. Hey. Now, one potential counter to Possession. I believe, again, this is not based on experience because I don't play with possession. I have no desire for these games. But one way to counter possession is just green fast. Like, possession does not do well versus a simple big money deck. If you wanted to play maybe just like sacrifice Market Square, get some golds, and start buying province early, that's okay versus possession because your deck is already going to be kind of bad in the first place by the time possession hits. Like, your deck's not doing a whole lot. And you've already got, like, say, majority of the green cards where just building possession or building to possession is more time intensive. The problem with that, I think, is someone building to possession, like they're building up a big engine that can play possession plus royal carriage. If they see that you just go for the simple big money strategy, they could just opt to never do the possession thing in the first place. They could just decide, all right, I built an engine anyway. Let me not bother adding possession because my opponent's deck is kind of crappy. And I'll just build the more standard engine with like Cursed Village and or Royal Carriage, Swashbuckler, etc. and beat them in a normal engine versus money game. And so, given that the engine here is strong enough, you can't just play big money to get around possession because you'll lose to the standard engine. So you both have to build the engine, and then one of those is getting possessed, and then it kicks off from there. Oh, there's a top deck possession. That is... whew, yeah. I also believe possession, on top of all the other problems we listed, is one of the buggiest ones as far as the client goes. It's one of those cards that the client, I think, does not handle very well. Like, I think if you try to undo in possession games, it can lead to wonky problems where it asks you, like, undo 200 steps and stuff like that, which I guess makes sense. I don't know how you effectively program something to, like, take an entire extra turn as your opponent's perspective. But on top of all the other problems, I'm pretty sure on the online implementation, possession additionally can occasionally cause some weird bugs. All right, so now I have our first possession turn. So Squire Zucko is asking who gets the victory points. I don't even know the answer to that. I think they get the victory points. It only says you gain the cards or debt. It doesn't say you gain the victory tokens. And they could always just test it out if they wanted, and then undo if it works badly. But I think the person being possessed gets the victory points. I mean, the best I can tell them is just... I was going to say, why don't y'all test it and undo? But I'm actually, again, not 100% sure if undoing works well with possession. I think that might lead to some bugs. I think the answer is they get the points. I don't feel confident enough to assert to the players that that's how that works, and then the responsibility be on me if I end up being wrong. Maybe if one of the other spectators knows better, you can message them. But I think the best play there would be to not sacrifice the estate for your opponent, because I think that would give them the points. You just sacrifice like the coppers or something for money, and then you gain a gold off of their market square. Oh, wait a second. Is Squire Zucker going to get to buy another possession off of NB Schluter's turn? Oh, my lord. Yeah, so now Zucko can buy a possession with NB Schluter's deck and add it to their own. Now, what happens if you buy Traveling Fair and try to top deck the possession? Can that... I'm pretty confident the answer is you can't put it on the top of your own deck. But I'm wondering if you could top deck the possession onto their deck with Traveling Fair, and then that would cause it to lose track and not go into your deck. Let me read this text. I actually have no idea how possession plus Traveling Fair interacts. Going back to something I said earlier, possession plus cards is just very hard to interpret. I don't understand how possession interacts with most things. Like, if you buy Traveling Fair or buy possession, it looks like, based on the text, they never technically actually gain the card. So I don't think they get to top deck it because they don't gain it. But you gain it. Maybe you can't put it on the top of your deck. No, because you're not the one who bought Traveling Fair. Technically, you told your opponent to buy Traveling Fair. So I think that Traveling Fair plus possession probably just does nothing. MB Schluter now just realizing that you can play as many possessions as you want on the same turn and just take a lot of turns together. Yeah, TKB saying possession needed more playtesting. I believe this is written somewhere, and so maybe someone could verify this. But I'm pretty sure that Alchemy is like definitely widely regarded as like the least good expansion by a good margin. Possession coming from Alchemy, but Possession probably being one of the main reasons Alchemy is regarded as one of the least good expansions. But I'm pretty sure one of the issues with Alchemy was that it was kind of rushed. Like Donald X was asked for like a small expansion real fast and pumped out Possession, and so yes, lack of playtesting might explain this. This awful card. Don't tell me that you actually enjoy Possession games, Dan Brooks. That is... Alright, so that game ended mercifully. Alright, so that is now 2-1 in Squire Zucco's favor. I don't know if first possession always wins, but they probably win pretty often. Especially in a game like this where you can call royal carriage in your possessions. So, for anyone who's new-ish, true story, there was a long period. The ban list, I think, only rolled out like last year or so. So for like the first year and a half or so of this client's existence, there wasn't a ban list or anything. You couldn't ban cards. But there was one card that was banned by default, which is Possession. I think it started out there was nothing banned at all. And then at some point, I think people hated Possession enough that Possession was just a default ban for everybody. And you had to actively like put it into your games if you ever wanted to play with it. And then like years later, they rolled out the actual ban list so you could choose. But by default, if you played before that, Possession just started on your ban list, and you had to go in there and actively remove it from the ban list. And games like this are why. All right, what do we have here? So we've got Trashing. Steward can trash 2. Forager can trash. Bounty Hunter can exile 1, which is like trashing. Junk Dealer can trash. Expand can trash. Bishop can trash. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ways to trash in a 10-card kingdom. Draw. Slay can draw. Crossroads can kind of sort of draw, but not really reliably. Action. We have Crossroads, and we have Summon. Plus buy, we've got Forager. You can also gain things with Expand. I'm not exactly sure what you do here. It looks a little bit weak to build super big, but you're definitely able to get very thin. So step 1 is definitely going to be trashing. I think probably Bounty Hunter Steward seems like the best opening here. Bounty Hunter will trash 1 and give you a nice spike in coins to be able to afford like Summon or Junk Dealer or Gold, and then Steward can trash 2. So I think Bounty Hunter or Steward seems like a strong opening. 5-2 I think is probably just Bounty Hunter Slay or Junk Dealer Slay. That doesn't seem substantially worse. 5-2 is actually better because you can just summon one of those. Wait, did Squire Zucco just buy? Wait. Oh, NBS started on 5-2. Oh, no, that 2-5. 2-5 is worse. 5-2 would be really good because you can summon the 4 or 3 cost card. Like you could summon Bounty Hunter, hit 5, and then summon another card. That 5-2 would be really strong here because you could like summon Bounty Hunter, summon Steward, or something like that. 2-5 is less good because you can do the Slay summon Bounty Hunter thing, which is still pretty good, but you're playing the Bounty Hunter turn 3 instead of turn 2, which is a pretty big difference. The benefit of playing it turn 2 is you've already got the effect before you've even shuffled your deck. You already got an estate out of your deck. You already got in 1 Bounty Hunter play. And now going to turn 3, you're going to get to play your Bounty Hunter for a second time. And you're never going to have to draw that estate. So 5-2 would be really strong here. 2-5 is probably better than 3-4 or 4-3, but not substantially better. It's basically kind of like guaranteeing you top deck the Bounty Hunter. It's a little better than that, but definitely 5-2 would be really strong. How does Cardinal interact with Platinum? So Cardinal can only hit cards from 3 to 6. So I don't think Cardinal can be super strong. Eventually you can probably just build a deck that's got a bunch of Platinum in it and buy colonies. I wonder if you do Bishop things here. I don't think Bishop Golden deck is going to be strong enough. So Kimmy's asking how these games are set up. It looks like, for some reason, they appear to not be playing with the banned or dislike list. I don't know why they chose that. Certainly that's like the default for most of these games. But I'm not... It would list it at the top of the log if they had cards banned or disliked. It's possible that just neither of them has any cards banned or disliked, which, I don't know, that seems like glutton for punishment. But for some reason, I guess they didn't put on the banned and dislike list. And then, so setting that part aside, Then the games are just random from all expansions. Yes. I believe this is the league game. This is E Division of the league. I can tell you exactly what E Division in a second. Division E5. And so I believe the standard for league is disliked and ban lists are respected, and then the players have to agree to turn on the like list as well, which is also like how the client works by default. And I'm not sure why they decided not to play with disliked or banned cards. Based on last game, maybe they just enjoy playing with stuff like possession. I'm not totally sure. Actually, wait, this game's also unrated. Maybe their familiar cards are respected. I don't know if anyone like uses the little familiar cards feature to like list a bunch of cards as unfamiliar, but theoretically maybe that's also relevant. I actually don't know. But I'm pretty sure the answer is just they're playing with a fully random kingdom. So what do we do here with Squire Zucco? Probably summon something, I would think. I don't think they really need a junk dealer at this point. Not exactly sure what I would want to summon here. A Vagrant, okay. So Schluter has the Cardinal. The Cardinal might hurt a little bit in the short term. I don't think Cardinal's going to be a super significant card, but like, there's not a whole lot of other strong cards competing for my action choices. I could see maybe getting Cardinal here. I think for the most part, I just want to get thin, add some platinum, maybe like an expand so I can threaten a double colony on an opportune turn, and then buy colonies. I think the general composition of their decks looks pretty good at the moment. I think as Zucco, I might try to hit platinum here. They definitely can if they exile the right stuff. They could, for example, exile like Slay, Steward, or Crossroads, trash a copper with a junk dealer, and buy platinum. That seems alright. They could also consider adding expand first, maybe platinum next turn. Okay, so maybe they're trying to hit platinum a different route. They could trash an action with a junk dealer and then buy platinum. That seems a little worse to me, but still fine. The Bounty Hunter junk dealer route trashes a copper, which is better, I think. Both of them result in you like losing one of your actions, but that's not too significant. Maybe they're just gonna do like junk dealer, trash copper, bounty hunter, copper away, and then buy expand. That's also fine. That gets rid of 2 coppers. Ooh, they exile the junk dealer. I feel like this is a little suboptimal. There's definitely better lines to get platinum that also result in you trashing copper. I also think the junk dealer was a little bit more valuable of an action to hold on to than some of the other ones they had. Like, I'd rather trash the Steward or even the Crossroads, I think, over the junk dealer. You still have a few coppers left that you can trash with it. And you can bounty hunter it on a later turn. Oh, you know what actually is probably going to be pretty good here, but I hadn't mentioned yet, is you could get to a deck that just buys 1 colony per turn and then always exiles that colony with bounty hunter. Like, you get a thin deck that's got like most simple example would be like bounty hunter, gold, 2 platinum. Then you buy colony, then you have a hand of bounty hunter, gold, 2 platinum colony, exile the colony, buy colony. Then exact same hand next turn, exile colony, buy colony, exile colony, buy colony, etc. And you can do the same thing with provinces. And so that deck will have only 5 cards in it, so it's immune to your opponent's cardinal attack, and will never ever dud, will never ever get full of green cards. And so that actually might be the end goal here, is just get super thin and build a bounty hunter golden deck, which is a bit stronger than the bishop golden deck. Because if you bishop colonies, you're only getting 6 points. If you bounty hunter the colony, you're retaining all 10 points. So I think that's actually probably where I would like my deck to end up long term. Incidentally, their opponent's cardinal did just hit the bounty hunter, which is kind of an annoyance if that's your goal. Who has the Forager? Schluter has the Forager. Yeah, so Zucco actually doesn't have any gains in their deck at all. So if they want that bounty hunter back, they're gonna have to spend an entire buy on it, which is not insignificant. Might still be worth it. Maybe just summon a bounty hunter. I'm not sure. I could see just trying to stick it out with the deck you've currently gotten colony consistently for the rest of the game and hold on to those colonies. I could also see taking summon bounty hunter to get it back. Maybe expand is the best option there. If they could buy and expand something else to get their bounty hunter back, and then you can move towards the bounty hunter golden deck, and you also have an expand to double colony if need be in the later phases. Zucco still seems to have a little bit of a lead. Yeah, I don't think it made sense to part with the junk dealer when they did. So Zucco, I guess you just exile a horse, because you'll get that horse back the next time you play your Slay. Maybe exile the Crossroads. Do they still need the Crossroads? They probably don't need the Crossroads anymore. Exiling the Crossroads is probably better. You don't want that card. They exiled a horse. It's not terrible. But I think I prefer getting rid of the Crossroads now. Makes sense to play those horses because you're going to draw, or maybe don't play the second horse. You can draw the Slay with your Steward. Well, so I think the ideal end goal here is to get a deck that doesn't have any colonies in it because you're going to bounty hunter those colonies. The way I think about it is Crossroads is net bad for your deck if you have no colonies in your hand because it's drawing you 0 cards, but it is taking up a spot. It's net neutral if you have if you have 1 colony in your hand. Because Crossroads will take up a spot in your hand, but also draw you a new card. So it'll be like a cantrip that replaces itself. And Crossroads is only net improving the quality of your deck if you have 2 or more green cards in your hand. Because then it draws 2, which is net drawing you a card. And if I'm playing with Bounty Hunter, I don't plan on having 2 colonies a whole lot of the time in my hand for Crossroads to draw me 2 cards. And so I would rather, I think, just get rid of the Crossroads because there'll be more turns where I have Crossroads plus nothing in hand than turns where I have Crossroads plus 2 colonies or more in hand. Like, for example, now they've just gotten rid of all the colonies left in their deck. So I would be looking to exile Crossroads relatively soon. In any case, it looks like Zucco's probably got this. They actually don't even need the gold. They have a copper. Copper is just as good as gold for these purposes because 2 platinum plus copper can buy colony and is in fact entirely immune to Cardinal. Cardinal can't hit any of those cards. So, do you play the Slay first? Play the horse first. If you... Okay, they can do it that way as well. Actually, that's probably the best order. Exiling the horse. That gets you 3 horses for next turn. I like that order. Platinum and Colony are both outside of Cardinal's price range. Cardinal fails. This looks like game for Zucco. I think Zucco should hit Colony twice in a row here, and there's no way Schluter outscores that in time. Yeah, I think the Cardinals are just not looking impactful enough. I don't think the Cardinals would do a whole lot of damage versus the deck that you ought to be playing, because it's mostly cards that are outside of Cardinals' range. Now, as Zucco, I think you exile Colony for sure, and probably get rid of the Steward, I think. A hand that does probably involves having a Steward in it. So I think I'd rather not have the Steward in my hand than have it in my hand. Or not have the Steward in my deck than have it in my deck. Exile Steward, play Slay. I don't like getting rid of the copper as much. The copper is actually a nice card for your deck, because 2 platinum plus copper does hit 11 exactly. The Steward, unlike the copper, could be hit by your opponent's cardinal, and then you might be in an awkward spot. I mean, it's all probably winning anyway, but I think...
it's really good. It's really good.
Oops, someone's got their sound on. Who's that? I think someone in your background is talking Kimmy314.
No, there's no one here but me.
Oh, maybe it was someone else who's already muted themselves then. Someone was talking for a moment. All right, what do we have here? Villages. We got Blessed Village, Squire, Encampment. Plenty of villages. We've got draw is Rabble or Barge or Encampment, so plenty of draw. We've got plus buy from Squire or Nomad Camp or Barge. Trashing doesn't exist. Okay, so that's going to be the big limitation of this kingdom, is there's no way to trash your cards. But there's plenty of action, buys, and draw. So you're going to build a big engine anyway. I would think that Barge looks really good here to me. Not immediately necessarily, but in the long term. Having a duration Barge down will be nice. Because I'd love to start with an 8-card hand. You know, Encampment will be good here, because it's both action and draw, which are both in high demand. But Encampment has that problem of you need to line it up with a gold or a plunder to play it. And so starting with an 8-card hand, for example, with Barge, will make it easier to do stuff like line up my encampments in the golden plunger, or maybe have both a Blessed Village and a Rabble in hand to draw. And so I think I'd really like that. 5-2 seems totally fine here. You could just buy an encampment on 2. Is Cardinal good here? I'm not sure how I feel about Cardinal. I think on 4-3... Fisherman could work. Nomad Camp could work. I don't hate the Cardinal. Cardinal's fine. You can get lucky and hit your opponents like key buy. Like if you hit their Barge with Cardinal before they get to play it, that'd be pretty significant. So Cardinal's risky but could potentially pay off. I feel like I wouldn't open Cardinal unless I was, for some reason, thinking I was super behind. Like if I'd already seen my opponent get the 5-2, then maybe I'd open Cardinal and try to... Now even then, like if my opponent has the 5-2, I know that the first time I play my Cardinal, I'm hitting at most one of their 12 cards as an eligible target for the Cardinal. I think the more I talk about it, Cardinal doesn't seem like the key play here. I mean, like if you don't hit their Barge, then the Cardinal's kind of actively helping them because it's going to be discarding a bunch of their junk. And that's like a 1 in 6 shot that you hit the Barge as the top 2 out of 12 of their cards. So I think I don't like the Cardinal much as an opening. I'm not sure if you ever even go into Cardinal. I think maybe it's probably just skippable here. There's just a bunch of action cards I want a lot more. Like on 4, Blessed Village is going to be pretty valuable pretty soon. Courtier seems nice. Courtier can get you golds, which will then allow you to add encampments to your deck and keep them around. I think Courtier's a pretty good buy for Squires that go there. Gets a village now as well. They can top deck something. What do you top deck here? Probably top deck the Blessed Village, I would think. I'm not sure it really makes much of a difference, but if nothing else, Blessed Village guarantees you'll have a target for Courtier if you need one. Like if you had a hand that was just like 3 coppers or something in Courtier, having a Blessed Village would function as a good Courtier target because Blessed Village is a 2-type card. Most likely the answer is you don't need a top deck. Or actually, top decking the Blessed Village has this additional benefit I hadn't thought of, but I'm now seeing, which is they now don't have to trigger a shuffle. If they hadn't top decked the Blessed Village, they'd have triggered a shuffle with both their Barge and their Courtier outside of it. Now, if they don't play their Blessed Village, they can reshuffle their deck with the Blessed Village, Courtier, and Barge, and Gold all going into it. So I think here as Zucco, you just play the Courtier, reveal any of the shelters or Blessed Village, take coins Gold, and buy yourself another Barge, a Blessed Village, whatever. Zeko seems to have a pretty big lead here. In fact, yeah, I think, yeah, take coins, gold, and you can buy a Blessed Village and an encampment. Seems really good. I hope they do not play that Blessed Village. Okay, good, they're not. I think that was the right move. Playing that Blessed Village would definitely not be worth it. They bought a Cardinal. I like that less. Like, exiling stuff is just not that much of an attack. It's basically like discarding cards from your opponent's deck. Because, sure, they missed out on it for a shuffle, but they'll just buy a new copy of that card and get it back. And so it doesn't hurt that much. It can hurt a lot once piles run out. Like, maybe let's say there's one stack of villages, like Blessed Village were the only village, and that pile runs out quickly. Having Cardinal hit your opponent's Blessed Village can suck, because then they lose a village and they have no way to get it back. But there's not any one particular card that's in super high demand here. Like, if you get behind on Blessed Village or Barge or Encampment or Rabble or whatever, you can compensate with other cards. So I don't think the Cardinal attack's going to hurt enough. And it's trading off with buying more cards that I actually want, like Blessed Village, Fisherman, Encampment, Squire, whatever. All right, Schluter adds a courtier. Do they already have one? Or is that their second? That is their second courtier. I don't like two courtiers too much. I think one courtier early can be good. You can get some golds, which again helps you keep the encampments around. But I don't think Schluter is anywhere near reliably drawing their deck. And courtier is a payload card, so I don't think I want to add a bunch of courtiers to my deck until I'm already drawing my deck pretty consistently. And that's going to take a while in this kingdom. You know, there's no trashing or anything. So you're going to have a lot of draw before you can consistently draw your deck. And so one courtier early is fine. Get maybe some gold so you can get encampments. But multiple courtiers, I think, seems bad. I'd rather Barge. Even Rabble would be better than courtier. But I think on 5, I'd be buying Barges until the Barges run out. And then maybe buying Rabbles. And then if I'm starting to draw my deck consistent with all of that draw, then maybe I start thinking about second courtier. 3 seems like an encampment to me. And it does reveal plunders to your opponent, but like, plunder's a good card, but it's not like the key card of this kingdom, so it's not going to hurt that much if your opponent gets like first crack at the plunder pile. Encampment's probably the better of the two, if I had to pick between encampment and plunder in terms of which one matters more. As Zucco, I think you play this encampment. Having a good turn here seems more important than potentially losing an encampment, I would think. Definitely play one of them. And yeah, now they should be able to play both of them, because that Barge will draw them a gold, which it does. Yeah, I think, even though they lost that encampment, I think this was more than worth it. They're getting enough payoff from drawing their deck that it's going to pay for itself. I assume you're just taking coins and gold again. You've got plenty of buys, and you don't need the action. They take plus buy. Interesting. Ooh, they exile their opponent's Barge. That's not a bad hit for Cardinal. Again, it's not going to matter too much, because, like, Schluter ought to be buying Barges anyway, and that Cardinal is probably just going to impel them to buy the Barge that they should have been buying regardless. But it doesn't mean the Barge is going to miss a shuffle, which is definitely... It does do something. I don't understand, though, why Squire Zucco chose to spend their Cardinal for plus buy. Maybe they decided they didn't want more golds, but if you've got 2 encampments in your deck, I think having more gold seems totally fine. I'm not like in a rush to get gold out of my deck. But the only reason I could think of, like, they don't need 4 buys, so the only reason I can think of for why they took plus buy plus 3 coins instead of gold and 3 coins is they decided they don't want golds. Which, I mean, draw is kind of limited. You know, maybe you just want to use the plunders for the encampments and just not have golds. But I think the gold is worth it. I don't think I'm so opposed to gold that I wouldn't take one for free. This is the kingdom where you probably never buy a single gold. But if you're taking like a free gold over nothing, I think gold is better than nothing. Did you miss? I think Squire Zucco is asking if Schluter had a dud turn. The answer is yeah.
No, I think he's asking if he misclicked because he at the first initially bought the Squire. Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, my guess is then what happened was Schluter was contemplating what they were going to buy earlier in the turn. They're like, I've got 2, I'll buy a Squire. And they immediately noticed as they're clicking Squire, oh wait, my opponent just put back an encampment. I'll buy that instead. And so they clicked undo to buy that encampment. That makes sense. Yep. So as it turns out, that is what happened. The Schluter's saying they didn't notice that Squire Zucco set an encampment aside and didn't reveal the gold for one of them. That's not a bad cardinal hit. Certainly, if nothing else, forcing your opponent to discard a Blessed Village and a Barge from the top of their deck does end up mattering. And that doesn't mean Cardinal's a good card, because sure, Cardinal can, and when it gets lucky, discard a Barge and a Blessed Village, but it can also do the opposite. It could potentially reveal your opponent's Hovel and Overgrown Estate and discard 2 bad cards. And so I think the average Cardinal play is not necessarily particularly hurting your opponent. We've just seen kind of 2 consecutive lucky Cardinal plays between the Barge and Blessed Village Exiles. I'm still kind of unsold on Cardinal being a good card for these decks, though. Alright, so what does Zucco buy now? I think the answer still has to be more draw. I would take that encampment, I think. Encampment or 2 barges. Plunder is not bad. You could buy encampment, plunder, and barge as well. I don't think I would take 2 plunders, though. I think you still really need the draw. I think my ideal buy is encampment and 2 barges. Blessed Village, interesting. It's not a bad boon to get. Yeah, boon actually ends up being pretty helpful. They have 2 terminals in their hand. In any case, Zucco just seems very in the lead this game. I think the 5-2 definitely helps. Opening Barge is really strong. Seeing both encampment and barge turn 3 is really strong. They just had a much stronger opening out the gate. But I also don't really love the early Cardinal opening. It didn't do a whole lot for Schluter. Their turn 3, in fact, all they did was discard 2 cards for their opponent to help them cycle through their deck. But I think a fair bit of this is probably the 5-2 plus seeing both of their buys turn 3. And Zucco just has not lost the lead since. I think here I'd probably just play the Barge as a duration and buy another Barge. Looks like that's what they're doing. Well, they've done the duration half of that. Not sure what they're buying yet. Okay, yeah. They did exactly what I was suggesting. I think that's the right play. What about piles? Plunders are low, barges are low. Neither of them really has enough plus buy, I think, to threaten an estate pile out, but maybe a Blessed Village pile out could be a thing in the relatively near future. We haven't seen Earth's Gift or Forest Gift yet, which are the 2 boons that could be relevant to a Blessed Village pile out. You could gain a Blessed Village, get Earth's Gift, discard copper, and get another Blessed Village. So Blessed Villages, I think, could pretty easily pile. So given that Zucco is very much in the lead, I would definitely just make sure my opponent doesn't get a sneaky Blessed Village barge pile out on me or something like that. Zucco also has a points lead, though, which kind of helps. In order for Schluter to pile out, they would have to get a duchy or something on top of that. And that's probably going to only increase from here, because Zucco has more of the plunders and is drawing those plunders more consistently. RTT is just PTT's younger brother. Yeah, there's a whole TT family. RTT is the 18th of the 26 children. Yeah, all of this looks winning for Zucco. I think here I'd probably take a few more barges and maybe take some points just to be safe. I don't think there's any real risk Schluter can do like 4 plus villages and a province or anything. I like barge because of the duration effect. It helps you line up stuff. You got a deck that's got tons and tons of junk in it. And so there's a real risk that you have a hand of tons of coppers and shelters, or a hand with encampment and no gold, or a hand with a terminal draw card and no village. And so I like having barges around for duration. It's possible that a mix of rabbles and barges could be better, because like you can always just play the rabble for the draw and then have a few barges left to duration. And I mean, part of the logic I think of taking barges is just to lower the piles. Like, as Squire Zucco, you're definitely threatening to pile up pretty soon. And so if you can lower the piles a bit without leaving your opponent to pile out, which I think they can, that might benefit you. Just don't give your opponent time to come back. But I'm not at all opposed to rabbles here. That could also make sense if you just want to play the long game. Honestly, both the long game and the short game favor Squire Zucco. I think Squire Zucco just has the win here. Because in the short term, they have a deck that's more together and more points, so their opponent can't pile out on them. And in the long term, they have a majority of the plungers, so their points lead is just going to progressively increase over the long term. So I'm not sure whether Squire Zucco is more ahead long term or short term, but they're very much ahead in both. I think I'm kind of inclined to take the short term win and just take more barges and lower the piles, and maybe take like a province just to be safe. Because there's less total uncertainty in the short term than the long term. Maybe my opponent builds some like huge conquest megaturn or something and sneaks the win out from under me. I don't know. I mean, the answer I think is just that it's all winning for Squire Zucco. I mean, there's probably not a huge difference. Yeah, Schluter's just not even close to drawing their deck. I mean, to be fair, I think part of that was the better draws early in the game from Squire Zucco, but they also, I think, did not help themselves by adding a bunch of courtiers before they had good draw. I think, a courtier is fine. A bunch of courtiers seems worse than having a bunch of barges. Zucco probably can win here. What do they need? They need 12 for Bluff Village plus 10 for Barge. That's 22. 22 seems doable, right? They got 7, 10, 16 in hand, 17 with Fishing Village. Courtier is 21. Oh, there might be one short. Oh, there's also an encampment. Schluter sent an encampment back. So maybe they can't quite pile this turn. In any case, they're definitely going to win pretty soon. Yeah. I don't think Zucco has the win here. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think, especially with that encampment, they definitely don't have it. Maybe without that... Oh, is it in hand? Ravenshard's saying they have the win in hand. Do they have more money than I accounted for? No, I'm not seeing... Oh, maybe they do have it. Do they gain a... Okay, maybe this can't count. I don't think they had it, but apparently they do.
Oh, he used Courtier to buy the gold, and it was in the discard, and then he shuffled.
Yeah, I thought I had factored in the gold. I was thinking they needed... How much money did they end up having? I thought they only had 21, accounting for Courtier for gold and coins, and needed 22. But somewhere my math was off. In any case, it looks like that game was won either that turn or the next turn for sure. All right, what do we got this kingdom? Looks like another big engine. We've got Remake for trashing. That's a pretty strong trasher. You're almost certainly opening with that on either 5-2 or 4-3. Draw with Council Room or Livery or Paddock or Diplomat or Courtyard. Lots of draw. Action will be maybe Diplomat. Probably not Diplomat. Diplomat's action aspect seems hard to activate here. But Port will be a pretty good village. and then eventually Paddocks will become a village. So I think the way this looks in the short term is you're definitely opening with Remake to get trash pretty fast, and then you'll get like an Artisan to gain 5s, and then play lots of liveries. And I think liveries and Paddocks will be your main draw. Maybe you get a Council Room for the plus buy. You could also get plus buy off of Druid, and I don't think you need the plus buy a whole lot because, you know, most of the stuff you want to gain costs 5, and Artisan can do that for you as well. So the openings, definitely Remake on 4-3. I think 4-3 is better than 3-4 here because you can save an estate, which is really nice. It keeps one estate out of the shuffle. I think Remake Courtyard sounds pretty good to me. What are the other options? The Druid doesn't look any good in the short term. I think Remake Courtyard seems pretty clear. I don't particularly need the silver. You're gonna get silvers when you remake the estates anyway. I definitely like a Remake Courtyard. Is that what they go with? Yeah, Remake Courtyard, and I'm assuming, yeah, Courtyard Remake. Now Squire Zekko has the better open. Because they had 4-3, they can save an estate. Schluter, they could have saved an estate turn 1, but saving estate turn 1 to turn 2 doesn't do anything, because estate doesn't help you either way. The benefit of saving estate turn 2 is that you shuffle your deck after turn 2, but not after turn 1. And so if you save an estate into your next hand after turn 2, it's staying out of that shuffle for turn 3 and turn 4, so you're getting a cleaner turn 3, turn 4 shuffle. Whereas saving an estate turn 1 isn't actually affecting your shuffle at all. And so I definitely like Squire Zekko's opening better. Not that Schluter could have done anything about that. That was just the fortune of having the 4-3. So Zekko buys ports. That's all right. I think I would consider a second remake, but ports are also pretty fine. Play Courtyard here. Shoot, I didn't see the hand that we're discussing. Are we talking about Schluter's turn 4 hand with 3 coppers, a Courtyard, and a remake? I would be inclined to play the remake, trash 2 coppers, and save the Courtyard. If you play the Courtyard turn 4, you trigger a shuffle, and then your remake is stuck out of the shuffle. Oh, we're talking about Zekko's turn 4. Let me look at Zekko's turn 4. They actually had the exact same hand. No, yeah, same comment applies. Both of them had 3 coppers, Courtyard, remake. I prefer playing the remake because you're shuffling your deck after turn 4. And if you play the Courtyard, you trigger a shuffle that doesn't have your remake in it. So you're missing out on that. Oh, they had a different deck composition? Let me look. Oh, I see. Zekko had already drawn because of their Courtyard. Okay, I don't remember exactly what they had there. That's quite possible makes sense then. If they had 9 cards left in their deck, then playing Courtyard first could have made more sense. Yeah, I think that's plausible. You can top deck or save the remake. That makes sense. For Schluter, at least, the other way makes sense for sure because they were about to trigger shuffle. All right, anyway, let me get caught up. Zekko takes some more ports. How are we doing on ports? Gains a port. Okay, so Zekko is up 6-2 on ports, which is kind of a big deal. I mean, actions are a little bit limited here because you got a lot of terminals you want to play. Artisans, liveries, remakes, and so forth. Even maybe Druid or Council Room for plus buy. And only 1 stack of villages, so winning the port split pretty big can be kind of a big deal. Now, granted, if you empty the ports, then all of a sudden Paddock is non-terminal, and so you could, maybe compensate for a lack of ports by using Paddock as your main draw. Paddock does seem a lot weaker than Livery here, though. Livery is just going to gain so many horses, and so I really like the ability to play with Livery, which ports will give you access to. And so I think you could live with losing the port split like 8-4, probably. Losing at 10-2 would hurt a whole lot. And even losing at 8-4 probably hurts a bit. Is it 4? Is it 4-4? Maybe I miscounted. Let me double check that. Zekko got the first pair and the second pair. Schluter got the third pair. Oh, you're right. I miscounted. It is 4-4. All right, so that's not a big deal then. Port starts at 12 instead of 10. because you gain 2 at a time. I think the idea is it only takes, like if ports only had 5 or only had 10 in the pile, it would only take 5 buys to eliminate them. And so I guess on that ground, ports start with an extra 2 ports in the pile. And so because that's functionally like 6 sets of ports, because ports always come 2 at a time if you buy them. So Schluter's turn, you could just, I think you don't play the port. I think probably just buy an artisan and save the port. And that guarantees the artisan is going right back into your shuffle. All right, they do that. I like that. I think that was a good play. Zeko got Paddock as their first 5. That's interesting. Is Paddock better than Livery? I think definitely Livery is going to be the better card overall in this kingdom. You'll be gaining a lot of cards, and so Livery is going to get you a lot of horses. It is possible that Paddock might be the best 5 as your first $5 buy. Or maybe even Counselor Room could be your first $5 buy, just because in the short term, those cards might do more for you than Livery is before you're getting lots of stuff. I think as Zeko, I'd probably do the same thing as Schluter, which is save the remake, buy an artisan. I think I value getting the artisan into my deck more than getting real thin, and there's a good chance you can play the remake next turn anyway for better effect. Yep, that's what they're doing. Alright, so Schluter gets to see the artisan, which is pretty good. What do you gain off of this artisan? Maybe just play the courtyard first? So they take a Paddock as well. I think in Schluter's position, by that point, I think your deck's far enough along that I might have preferred Livery there. Your Livery is already getting you at least one more horse. And Livery is, I think, the card you want more than Paddock in the long term. Like, if you played the Livery, you could get all 4 of those ports, and you'd have 4 horses in your deck and more villages. That seems better. Yeah, the more I think about it, I think Livery is probably the better game for Schluter there. Now, pilots are going to be a real threat here. You can do a lot of crazy gain and play stuff with the remake. What's I think ultimately going to happen here is it's going to be very, very easy to draw your deck once you get like a Livery or 2 in play, because you're going to be gaining just a monumental number of horses. And then you could remake 2 horses into 2 more remakes, then remake 2 more horses into 2 more remakes, and then 2 more horses into 2 more remakes. And, one remake could quickly become like, 7 remakes with 2 iterations of that little process. And you'll have enough villages to likely support that. And so something like pile out remakes and pile out duchies is a very realistic threat with the amount of overdraw they'll have. So if piles get even a little bit low, I'd start very much worrying about like concatenated remake chains. Alright, what does Zeko do? Surely it involves saving a horse. Probably just buying another artisan. Or maybe they want the last 2 ports. You could buy port and Livery, save horse, buy port and remake. I think maybe port Livery sounds good. Or port Council Room even. Port Council Room's fine. You could gain the remake. They already have one Council Room. Port Livery, I think. Neither of them likes Livery that much. This seems like a really good kingdom for Livery. Like, with all the stuff you're going to be gaining off of remakes and artisans and buys, Livery is just going to give you so many horses. You buy an alliance, and you're getting 3 horses per livery from the province, duchy, and gold. That looks pretty good as well for scoring purposes. This seems like quite a good kingdom for a livery. A gold. I hate that. Buying gold is just... that leaves bad taste in my mouth. Don't buy golds. There's so many strong $5 actions here. $6 actions. I think I just bought another artisan. But even something like save copper by paddock or save copper by livery, all of those just seem much, much better than adding a gold to your deck. What is the gold even doing for you? I detest the gold buy. Like, just the crazy sequence of actions that you have here is going to be all the payload you ever really need. Gain huge numbers of horses, remake those horses into stuff. And like you could get tons of golds by like remaking horses into remakes into paddocks into golds. I mean, you wouldn't even remake paddocks into golds. Keep the paddock. Paddock's a better card than gold. There's just so much to do with actions here. The gold is just getting in your way. So what does Zucco do here? You could gain a livery, remake a silver and a copper into another remake that gets you a horse, and then buy an artisan, save a copper. You could take, you could draw one by taking a counselor. I think that's also a good idea. You could even draw one by taking a diplomat if you wanted. I don't like that as much. I think you had enough actions to support the council room. Yeah, I feel like probably just take the council room is probably the best choice there. I'm not exactly sure how much they had left coming up though. You know, I think it might have been the case that what they were drawing to was just like a council room and like a silver. In which case, maybe just taking the livery and stopping was also a viable play. I could see just being happy enough leaving a council room and a port on top of the deck. Yeah, the council room is plus buy. Although, I mean, they had 8. I think you're probably just buying... I mean, you ought to be buying, I think, just one artisan there anyway. Squire Zucco is behind on artisans. So I don't think they were quite at the point where they needed plus buy. And, like, for the long term, they've already got one council room in their deck. So they have plus buy covered in general. And so the council room there only matters if they need a plus buy for that particular turn. Which I don't think they desperately did. Like, I think you're probably happy just buying artisan and saving something if you can. Which they had enough to do. Schluter seems to be in the lead here. Not sure when that happened. But they're in the lead now. But they keep buying golds. That's a good way to lose the lead. Ay. Gold bad. So, I mean, paddock is way better than gold. I mean, I wouldn't be getting a lot of paddocks here because livery is even better than paddock. But yeah, if the choice between livery, paddock, and gold, I would take any of the horse cards any day of the week over the gold. I don't think it's even close. I would take more artisans. Your deck can support more artisans. Your paddocks are now non-terminal. You've got tons of ports. There's so many cards. I'd buy another remake over a gold. You can do like remake horse stuff. There's a lot of cards in this kingdom I would rather have than gold. Yeah, these decks are just crying out for liveries. They're gaining so many cards, and all those cards could be gaining them horses, and they're not. Wait, just livery, please. Eventually, at some point. Yeah, I don't know why they're both allergic to livery. Livery is such a good card. It's just like a really good card for it. Livery, it can't make a deck good, but it takes a kingdom that's already strong and makes it like incredibly strong. And this kingdom's already pretty strong, so you throw a livery in it, and it goes hog wild. You're gaining tons of stuff off your artisans. You're buying tons of stuff. You're gonna have a deck that's got like 30 horses in it, and then you can just draw as many cards as you feel like, do all the things you feel like, and never have to worry about draw ever again. Especially because you can save horses, you can trigger a shuffle and top deck horses. You're never ever gonna dud. You're gonna have functionally infinite draw. That is if you ever get liveries, which they are not. Like, we are very fast approaching pilot territory. I think this does kind of assume they had liveries in the first place, but like if you had even like a one livery in your deck, I think piling out remakes would probably be pretty simple. You remake horses into remakes, remake more horses into more remakes. Every one of those is gaining you 2 horses off of it, and then you just like gain a duchy or something at the end. Alliance, I guess. I mean, you'd be getting 3 horses off of Alliance with just a single livery. It's so sad to see. The livery pile being at 10. I know, right? Like, imagine having 2 liveries in play, getting 6 horses off the Alliance play, and net having more draw than before you bought the Alliance. Yeah, livery is just quite a card. Is Schluter going for the pile out? If not, looks like they go in for the Zucco piles out on them play. Do they have it? So you play all of your paddocks now to put the horses in the discard. Then you play a horse and trigger the shuffle. And then maybe they have enough to do... I don't think they have enough for it. They've got all those like useless golds taking up space in their hand. I don't think they have enough overdraw to do the remake and remake thing. Oh my god! That... They remade their paddocks into golds. Why? Why would you do that? Paddock did nothing wrong. They did not deserve that. Oh no. The horse hate here is just beyond belief. What? This is a massacre. They're massacring their own deck. Schluter had a big lead. And they're throwing it away with all these golds. Ay, ay, ay. Can Zucco do quad? Maybe? I think it's very possible. With like the right sequence of remakes plays. I don't know with 100% certainty. But I think there might be a chance Zucco could do quad here if they remake enough stuff into money. So they'll need to hit 32 with... Actually, do they have enough buys for that? Zucco might not have enough buys to do quad, even if they hit it. They've got Council Room and Druid. But they don't need to gain another Council Room in the first place to even have a chance of quadding. So I guess step 1 is probably gain a Council Room and play it with your Artisan, because you're going to have to do that to quad anyway. They could do 7 duchies, actually. Never mind. New plan is do 7 duchies. 7 duchies seems infinitely more doable. I don't like that they played all the horses so fast. Are you looking to remake... Yeah, they can still remake silvers into more remakes. But you could do like... Let's see. What's that last card? I don't know what the last card is. Yeah, I feel like Port Pilot here should definitely... Or not Port Pilot. Duchy here, Pilot, should be very doable. Remake Silver and Port into Duchy and Remake. Draw the Remake. Then you remake 2 more Ports and 2 more Duchies. That's 3 of them. You can gain 1 off of the Artisan. That's 4 of them. You can play your... Yeah, they definitely have this. This is an easy Duchy pile out. I don't think this is even hard. I mean, they could remake horses if they still had horses. Or they can get more horses with paddocks. In any case, I think you should remake 1 port and a silver or horse into another remake and a duchy. Then you remake the other 2 ports into 2 more duchies. You gain 1 with Artisan. You play your druid. You can buy 3 duchies. I think it's very easy to pile duchies here. I imagine that if you really pushed the limits to this deck, you could probably do like 7 duchies in a province or 2. With the right sequence of plays. But I think piling on duchies here is trivial and it's enough to win. Oh, you can discard copper for remake. That's also not bad. Wait, why'd they gain a druid? Druid's still fine. Druid's a gain. Druid's clearly worse than a remake, but it's a gain. I don't think they've squandered their ability to win here yet. I think the druid gain should still lead to a win. Gain a remake now? Okay. The mass druid's a little confusing, but I still think this still leads to a win. I mean, you can even pile out estates probably here with all the druid gains. And like pile out estates and buy a duchy or something also should work. This win should be really easy. They look like they're going for it, and I think if you even attempt to go for it, you'll probably find a win here one way or another. Their deck's got more than enough to do 7 duchies or 7 estates plus duchy. Or maybe even they might still have the ability to do like quadruple province. That's also not off the table. They're probably too low money for that right now. I don't think they're going to quad province, but there might even be a line that quad province is here. Wouldn't be surprised at that. Are they going for the... They're going for the Druid pile out. That's yet another way to win. I think Druid pile out could be doable here. Druid pile out plus Alliance is enough to win. There's a lot of lines here that should be winning. I don't think they're taking the easiest one, but it looks like they're taking one that'll be enough to work. They've already got the win in hand, looks like. You just play all your money, you can buy Alliance and 3 Druids with the amount of money and buys you have. All the estates is losing. If you just bought all the estates right now, you'd... Oh, no, they got a duchy now. Now you can buy all the estates. Yeah, once they got the duchy, now all the estates is enough to win. Wait, are they doing the duchy palette after all? They got enough money to buy 4... they don't have enough money to buy 4 duchies. They're off by 1. Yeah, there are a lot of ways to win from that position. All right, 5-1 for Squire Zucco. They submit their lead. I think they were already up a good bit in their division. They were first in their division, and I don't imagine going 5-1 is going to hurt their odds of staying in first. All right, well, that's the match. I will sign off now and upload this to YouTube. See you around.